society tells us aging means either 60 is the new 40 or just decline and diapers. But what's the truth we're all avoiding? Somewhere along the way, aging became a performance. You're either defying it, running marathons at 70, climbing mountains at 80, or you're painted as fragile, fading, and forgettable. But most of us, we live in the in-between. We wake up with joints that ache for no reason. We walk into rooms and forget why. We grieve quietly, not just for the people we've lost, but for the parts of ourselves that are slipping away too. And still, we laugh. We love. We remember things no one else does. We matter. This isn't about fear or denial. It's about honesty. Because aging isn't just a medical chart or a marketing slogan. It's a deeply human experience, layered with memory, identity, and unexpected grace. So today, let's talk about what aging really feels like. Physically, emotionally, spiritually, the parts no one prepares you for. The parts no one posts about. Not to dwell, but to understand, to honor, to feel less alone. The truth is, aging shows up in the quietest ways. It's not always dramatic or visible to others, but we feel it. Every morning, you wake up stiff, like your body forgot how to move during the night. Not because you ran a marathon the day before, but because you slept. That's all it takes now, a night of rest, and somehow your lower back is negotiating a ceasefire before you can even stand up straight. And then there's that one knee, the one that's become more accurate than the weather app. If a storm's coming, you know it before the clouds do. It creaks, clicks, and throbs with a rhythm all its own, like it's got something to say, even if no one's listening. Your hands feel it too. You notice it when you're opening jars, holding your phone, tying your shoelaces. Things you never gave a second thought to now feel different. Just enough to remind you that time is moving forward, and your body is changing right along with it. These aren't the kinds of things we bring up often, not in family group chats, not over dinner, maybe not even at the doctor's office. We downplay it, brush it off, say things like, "I'm just getting old," or "It's nothing really." Because deep down, many of us are afraid of what it means to say it out loud. We don't want to be seen as fragile. We don't want to be labeled as complainers. And we definitely don't want our children or grandchildren to start treating us like we're made of glass. So we stay quiet. We carry these invisible aches alone, not because we're trying to be stoic, but because we don't want to become a burden. But silence doesn't make it go away. It just makes it heavier. I once tried to explain this to a friend much younger than me. I told her that the hardest part about aging isn't the pain. It's that the pain feels invisible. Like you're in a room full of people, smiling and nodding, while your back screams every time you shift in your seat. You don't want attention, but you do want understanding. And here's what I've learned. You're not weak for feeling it. You're not complaining for naming it. You're just human. And getting older doesn't erase that. If anything, it deepens it. These invisible aches aren't signs of defeat. They're reminders that we've moved through decades of living, that our bodies have held babies, built homes, carried grief, danced at weddings, and stayed upright through every high and low. They've done their job. They've done more than their job. And now they're asking us to slow down, to adjust, to listen. So maybe we do need to start talking about it, not to dwell, but to make space for honesty. Because the moment we stop pretending we're fine all the time is the moment we start reclaiming something powerful. Compassion. For ourselves and for one another. In the next part of this conversation, we'll explore the emotional weight that comes with aging, the moments of loneliness, the shift in identity, and the quiet grief that no one warns you about. Because aging isn't just about the body, it's about everything we carry inside it too. Some days feel endless. You make your tea, do your stretches, water the plants, glance at the clock, and somehow it's still morning. But then you look up, and 10 years have vanished. There's this strange time warp that happens as we age. The individual days stretch out, quiet, slow, familiar, but the years, they vanish like mist. It's like your life has become a flip book, pages turning faster than you can catch them. And the most jarring part, realizing how much has changed without you noticing. I looked in the mirror yesterday and saw my mother, except it was me. Her eyes, her soft jawline, the same tired crease between the brows when she was thinking. It stopped me, not because I don't want to look like her. She was beautiful, but because I still feel like a younger version of myself on the inside. That's the disorienting part of aging. The inside you doesn't always match the outside you. You still feel curious, creative, witty, even bold, but your reflection has changed. And sometimes you don't recognize the person looking back. It happens with friends too. One day you're laughing over wine or chasing toddlers at the park. The next you're talking about blood pressure meds and grandchildren. You blink, and the people who once felt young and wild are suddenly walking with canes and repeating stories they've already told. It's not sad, not always, but it's surreal. No one warns you about that shift, about watching people you love become old before your eyes, even as you quietly become one of them. There's a subtle grief in that, a letting go, not just of youth, but of time as you used to know it. And it's not just about nostalgia. It creates this strange pressure. Am I doing enough? Am I making the most of this stage? What if I waste what's left? Even peaceful moments can feel loaded. A slow afternoon, a nap in the sun. Things that used to feel indulgent now come with guilt. Like time is speeding up and you're supposed to be racing to keep up with it. But maybe what we need most in this season of life is the permission to slow down anyway. To stop trying to pack every day with purpose and start finding purpose in simply being. Maybe it's okay to sit in the quiet and not fill every moment. Maybe it's okay to feel a little lost in time, to miss the younger versions of yourself, to honor the passing years without rushing to catch them. Because aging isn't about losing track of time, it's about learning how to be present in it, even when it moves strangely, even when it moves fast, even when it changes you. In the next chapter, we'll talk about the emotional and social layers of aging that often go unspoken, the loneliness that creeps in quietly, even when you're surrounded by people, and how we find connection and meaning in the spaces that feel forgotten. As time moves forward, something else begins to shift, and we don't always talk about it. Your world starts to shrink. It's not always sudden. Sometimes it's subtle, like realizing you haven't heard from a friend in weeks, then months. Other times it hits like a wave, a funeral. A neighbor moves away. A coffee group quietly dissolves because too many chairs are now empty. The people you used to rely on, the ones who knew your stories without explanation, begin to fade. Some through distance, some through death, some through the quiet drifting that life tends to do when no one reaches across the space. And then there's the strange feeling of becoming invisible. You walk into a store and younger people brush past you like you're not even there. You speak in a group and your words seem to land softly, as if your voice carries less weight than it once did. It's not always intentional, but it's undeniable. The world moves fast and somehow we start to feel like we're no longer part of the current. Even with family, the gap grows. Adult children are juggling careers, kids, stress. You tell yourself they're just busy, but it doesn't stop the sting when days turn into weeks without a call. You don't want to be a burden, so you wait and wonder. What makes it even harder is how hard it is to talk about. We're told to be grateful, to enjoy the quiet, to find peace in solitude. And sometimes we do. There's beauty in stillness. But solitude isn't the same as loneliness. Solitude is a choice. It's a warm blanket on a quiet morning. Loneliness is the cold side of the bed that stays cold. It's the empty chair at the table that used to be filled. And the hardest part? Learning how to rebuild connection when you're in your 70s, 80s, or beyond. Because no one teaches you how to make new friends after a certain age. There are no school cafeterias or office lounges, just a quiet sense of wondering where to begin. But connection isn't out of reach. It just takes more intention now. Sometimes it starts with showing up to a local class, volunteering once a week, saying hello first. Sometimes it's about rekindling old friendships with a phone call, even if it's been years. You're never too old to be known, to be seen, to be invited in. It's easy to believe the shrinking of our social world is inevitable. But connection, like health, needs tending, it needs movement. And it starts with acknowledging the loneliness, not as a weakness, but as a human truth. Because if we don't say it out loud, we suffer in silence, and we forget that so many others are sitting in the same quiet room, wondering if anyone else feels this way too. In the next part of this story, I want to explore the beauty of purpose in aging, what it means to feel needed, to contribute, and how redefining purpose after retirement can be one of the most healing steps we take in this chapter of life. And then there's memory, the odd paradox of remembering your childhood in perfect detail. Your mother's perfume, the crackle of the radio on Sunday mornings, the pattern on your grandmother's tablecloth, but forgetting why you just walked into the kitchen. You stand there, puzzled. What did I come in here for? You retrace your steps. Sometimes it comes back, sometimes it doesn't. We joke about it. Senior moments, we say with a laugh. But underneath that humor is something else, a flicker of fear. Because it doesn't feel like a joke when it starts happening more often. When you lose your train of thought mid-sentence, when you can't recall a name you should know, when you walk into a room not just once but again and again and forget why you're there. That quiet question starts whispering in the back of your mind. Is this normal or is this something worse? You want to ask someone, but when you do, your concerns get brushed off. They say everyone forgets things. They say it's just part of getting older. They say don't worry about it. But they aren't the ones lying awake at night, replaying the times your mind slipped. They're not the ones wondering what it means when the memories feel closer than the moment you're in. So let's pause here. Try this. What were you doing exactly 10 years ago today? You might suddenly remember something vivid, a vacation, a holiday, a friend's birthday. Or maybe it's a blur. Either way, that small exercise shows the strange nature of memory, sometimes sharp as glass, sometimes soft as fog. And that's the tricky part. Aging affects memory, but not always in ways that mean something is wrong. A neurologist I once heard put it this way: if you lose your keys and eventually find them, that's normal aging. If you forget what the keys are for, that's when we worry. There's a difference between normal forgetfulness and cognitive decline, and understanding that difference brings relief. Normal aging means it may take longer to recall names, especially when distracted. It means walking into a room and forgetting why you're there, but remembering later. It means occasionally misplacing glasses or forgetting appointments. But warning signs worth watching include consistent confusion about time or place, repeating the same story within minutes, struggling with familiar tasks like making coffee, or changes in language that disrupt communication. The challenge is that fear makes us silent. We don't want to worry loved ones. We don't want to admit we're scared, so we bury it. But silence is heavy, and we deserve answers, not assumptions. The truth is, most memory slips are normal. They're frustrating, yes, but not dangerous. And if they ever do go beyond that, early awareness makes all the difference. You don't have to navigate it alone. And you shouldn't have to pretend it doesn't matter just to avoid someone else's discomfort. Because memory isn't just about recalling facts, it's about remembering who we are, where we've been, and what still matters now. In the next chapter, we'll talk about legacy, not just in terms of money or possessions, but the stories, values, and wisdom we hope to leave behind. Because when memory becomes more fragile, the meaning we pass on becomes even more important. Some changes are easy to talk about, Others, we tuck into the shadows. Because aging doesn't just bring stiff joints and slower memory. It brings challenges that feel more personal, more private, and sometimes more shameful. But they shouldn't. Let's talk about the ones we rarely say out loud. The sudden urgency to use the bathroom and not always making it. The discreet pads tucked in handbags. The fear of laughing too hard in public or traveling too far from a restroom. Bladder control issues affect millions of older adults, yet many suffer in silence, afraid to bring it up even with their doctor. Or the changes in sexuality. It's as if society assumes intimacy ends after 60, but desire doesn't have an expiration date. What does change are the hormones, the body's responses, and sometimes the confidence to even discuss it. For some, it's dryness or discomfort. For others, it's a shift in identity, especially after the loss of a partner or a health diagnosis. And yet, we don't ask about it. We don't talk about what happens when medications lower libido, or how grief and physical pain alter how we see ourselves. Then there's the irony of prescriptions themselves, meant to help, but often bringing new issues. You take one medication to treat a condition, then another to treat the side effect of the first. Before long, you're juggling a pill box full of contradictions. A blood pressure med causes fatigue. A sleep aid causes confusion. An antidepressant dulls emotion and intimacy. But most people just keep going, quietly adjusting, too embarrassed to question whether all of this is just part of getting older. And that's the problem. Because none of this is about weakness. These are medical issues, not moral failures. You didn't do something wrong because your bladder muscles weakened. You're not broken because your sex life has changed. You're not a burden because your medication makes you feel unlike yourself. But shame is a powerful silencer. It convinces us to suffer alone. It makes us believe no one else could possibly understand, when the truth is, millions do. And that silence, it keeps people from getting the help they could have. The pelvic therapy, the hormone options, the medication reviews, the support. We all deserve the right to ask for better, to say, this part of aging is hard, without being met with awkward glances or uncomfortable silence. Because your body may change, but your worth doesn't. And seeking help is never something to be embarrassed about. It's an act of respect for your health, your dignity, and your right to thrive in every chapter of life. We don't need to whisper about these things anymore. We need to name them, normalize them, and make space for honest conversations that free us from shame. Because aging may bring vulnerability, but it also brings wisdom. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is, this is happening to me and I'm not ashamed. In the next and final chapter, I'll share a heartfelt reflection about what aging has truly taught me, not just about my body, but about what it means to live fully, speak honestly, and honor each season of life as it comes. For all the aches, the changes, the quiet griefs that aging brings, there are also unexpected gifts, ones no one really tells you about. Quiet rewards that seem to grow larger in the absence of things that used to feel urgent. One of the greatest is how much less I care about what people think. I used to waste so much time on it. How I looked, what I said, whether I fit in. Now, I just don't have the energy for that performance anymore. And what freedom that is. I say what I mean. I show up how I am. I wear clothes for comfort, not approval. I don't chase relationships that drain me or say yes when I mean no. There's a kind of peace that comes with knowing you've earned your own company and that not everyone's opinion needs to come with you into this chapter. And then there's the beauty of slowing down. When you're younger, everything moves so fast. You barely notice the sound of leaves in the wind or the way sunlight hits the floor at 3 p.m. You're always racing toward the next thing. Now, I find wonder in the smallest moments. The smell of fresh bread. The way my cat curls into the sunbeam. A stranger's kind smile in the grocery line. These little things have become bright spots in the quiet. And I feel them more deeply than I ever did before. It's not that I've lost the desire for adventure, it's just that I've found it in different places. There's also a richness in long-term relationships that I didn't expect. Friendships that have lasted decades. A marriage that's weathered every storm. The love I have now is less about grand gestures and more about quiet presence, about being there, still, after all this time. I've watched my children grow into parents. I've seen friends become grandparents. I've sat beside loved ones in joy and in grief, and I've learned there's a depth to connection that only time can create. We talk often about what aging takes from us, but not enough about what it gives. It gives perspective, patience, gratitude. It clears away the noise and leaves what matters. And perhaps the greatest gift is the realization that I don't need to prove anything anymore. I'm not here to impress. I'm here to live. Fully, honestly, and gently. Like I once heard someone say, I don't have time for pretense anymore. What freedom! It's not always easy, but there's joy here, and clarity, and the kind of wisdom that comes not from books or gurus, but from simply being alive long enough to see things fall away and to see what stays. So yes, aging has its challenges, but it also has gifts. And I've learned to hold both at once, the grief and the gratitude, the loss and the light. Because this isn't the end of the story, it's just a different chapter. One with a slower pace, a softer tone, and a deeper heartbeat. And that, I've come to believe, is something worth celebrating. If there's one truth I've come to hold tightly, it's this. Aging isn't all decline, and it isn't all enlightenment. It's both, often in the same day. One moment, you're aching in a place you didn't know existed. The next, you're laughing at a memory so sweet it nearly brings you to tears. One day, you feel invisible, uncertain, disconnected. The next, you feel deeply rooted, steady in yourself, in a way you never were at 30. Aging is a strange mix of losing and gaining. Letting go of who you were while slowly becoming someone else. Someone more honest, more present, more forgiving. But that doesn't mean it's always graceful. Some days you grieve the energy you used to have, or the reflection that no longer matches the image in your mind. Some days your heart aches with the absence of people who once filled your life with noise and light. And yet, some days are filled with joy, with unexpected laughter, with the quiet thrill of knowing you no longer need to chase approval or prove your worth. That's the full picture. It's not filtered or polished. It's not a motivational quote or a fear-filled warning. It's messy, beautiful, unpredictable, real. And if no one else has told you this today, you're not doing it wrong. Aging doesn't come with a map. Just moments, choices, and a chance each day to live with a little more compassion for yourself and for the journey you're still on. So if you're walking this road, aching, wondering, remembering, becoming, know this: you are not alone. You are still becoming, and you are still deeply, beautifully human. Thank you for being here, for listening, for honoring the truth that aging is not the end, but a continuation, different, yes, but full of life, still worth living. Until next time, take care of your heart, your body, and your truth. You've earned every part of it. If this video spoke to you, if it made you feel seen or less alone, I hope you'll share it with someone who needs that same comfort today. And if you're walking through your own aging journey with questions, grief, or quiet joy, I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. This is a space for honesty, not perfection. Don't forget to subscribe to Elderly Truths for more real conversations, reflections, and gentle wisdom about growing older with grace and courage. Until next time, be kind to yourself. You're not just aging, you're unfolding. One honest moment at a time.